Alrighty, so it's that time where we look ahead at next month's releases and break down some of the biggest games coming down the pike. June was already jam-packed with excellent releases from the Switch 2 and all of the excitement that comes with the new console launch, but July's shaping up to be pretty rad as well with a flurry of new games, from AAA heavy hitters to grounded cozy slice-of-life simulators. But first, let's kick this off with an unexpected revival of a series that first got its start way back in 2007 on the PSP, and that would be Patapon 1+2 Replay, releasing on July 1st for Switch, PS5, and PC. And for some reason in my mind, I always think of this as being in the same vein as Loco Roco, but where that's a cutesy platformer, this is more of a cutesy rhythm strategy game of sorts. You'll guide your little eyeball creatures Patapons through various stages to face off against monsters, and then level up your squad and units along the way. There's a ton of different items and equipment you can use to beef up your units and square off against more and more harrowing foes, and there's also a variety of minigames and new support functions that make the game easier to play. That would include things like on-screen drum commands, adjustable difficulties, and input timing adjustments. And I still have my physical copies of 1 and 2 for the PSP, but honestly I haven't played these in years. So while it might not be a day one purchase for me, I'll certainly keep an eye out for a sale on this one to check it out with the new enhancements. Next up, speaking of early 2000s throwbacks, we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 releasing on July 11th for PlayStation, PC, Xbox, Switch 1, and Switch 2, and it's launching on Game Pass Day 1. Featuring new and classic parks, this will combine the original release of 3 and 4, albeit with updated features, game modes, skaters, music, and of course, massively overhauled visuals. And if the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake is any indication, I have no doubt this will be an incredibly fun game, and honestly just a perfect summertime release for old school fans looking to relive their best runs from 2001 and 2002. But it'll also have plenty of new content to freshen up the experience, including the Doomslayer if you go for the Digital Deluxe upgrade. Also, in case you missed it from the Xbox showcase the other day, it does look like Bam Margera has officially been added back into the roster, which is just excellent, and I can't wait to shred through Suburbia once more to 96 Quite Bitter Beings, although this time I might have to do it as Mikey from the Turtles since he's joined the party as well. And I really hope that fans come out in full force for this one, so that we might see the series bounce back after a lot of so-so entries in a post-Thug 2 world. But we'll see what happens, again, when it drops on July 11th. Next up, turning solely to the Nintendo Switch 2, we have what literally might be the heaviest hitter on this list, and that would be Donkey Kong Bonanza, releasing exclusively on the Nintendo Switch 2 on July 17th. And boy howdy, I could not be more excited for this one. It's been a long time since we've had a 3D Donkey Kong game, but after that 15-minute showcase from last week from Nintendo, I am 100% sold on this one. At first I was a little iffy on this one only because people who got early hands-on time with it reported some performance dips, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty polished when it actually arrives. And when it does, it looks like there's going to be an entire mountain of fun mechanics to play around with here. Aside from fleshing out the story with confirmation of Pauline being your sidekick, Nintendo showed off a ton of appealing elements. Get it? Appealing? Like bananas? Sorry. And within Bonanza, you'll be smashing everything in sight, powering up to transform into a zebra or ostrich to give DK new abilities to play around with, tons of unlockables from music tracks to clothing options for customization, and a whole lot more. Oh, and they did throw in a legitimate 3D modeling mode called DK Artist for good measure, which for me immediately conjured up nostalgia for Mario 64 where you could kind of interact with Mario's face in 3D on the title screen. All in all, this is shaping up to be so much more than just a destructible playground, and I'm fairly confident this one's going to end up being a Game of the Year contender for me personally. And speaking of new twists on classic characters, this next one is definitely weird as an updated take on one of gaming's biggest icons, and that would be Shadow Labyrinth, releasing on July 18th for the PS5, Xbox, PC, Switch, and Switch 2. Shadow Labyrinth is an action-adventure game with Metroidvania elements where you'll be playing as a mysterious swordsman while he's guided through a giant maze by an orb known as Puck, or, well, more appropriately, Pac-Man. And this is officially part of the Pac-Man series at this point, serving as a reimagining of the franchise's core concepts. And I didn't even realize this until I checked the Wikipedia page, but apparently there's an official prequel to the game, the Secret Level Episode Circle, which I guess I'll definitely have to watch now because this looks absolutely fascinating. From what's been shown so far, a lot of Pac-Man's classic abilities get put to good use here, but you'll also engage in combat with characters from other Bandai Namco properties like Dig Dug, and Pac-Man can transform into a giant mech, so yeah, this is just an extremely weird take on Pac-Man, but as a budget title at $29.99, I am 200% picking this up day one, and I can't wait to see where the story goes in this decidedly darker take on a legitimate gaming icon. And speaking of icons, next up we have Super Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 Edition releasing on July 24th. And technically this isn't a new release since Jamboree dropped last October, but it'll certainly be new to me since I haven't played a Mario Party game in probably decades at this point. And since I never grabbed the original, this will be my first $79.99 Switch 2 purchase, and I'm willing to take the leap since it does include Jamboree TV, which does look to lean pretty heavily into the Switch 2's camera functionality, and also offers a range of experiences that take advantage of the mouse functionality of the Joy-Cons. My only real hesitation here is I'm not sure if you can enjoy the game without using Joy-Cons, or if it's kind of required that you play with those, because I do enjoy playing with the Switch Pro controller most, but honestly that's a pretty minor gripe. And considering a bunch of my friends hopped on the Switch 2 train and are looking for multiplayer experiences we can play together, this one seems like a fun way to chill out with friends. Well, that or it'll create massive rifts in those friendships when things get way too competitive, but I'll see for myself when it comes out on the 24th. Next up, ramping way up in difficulty and also launching on July 24th, we have Wuchang Fallen Feathers coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox. Wuchang Fallen Feathers is a Soulsike action RPG set in the land of Shu during the late Ming Dynasty. You'll be playing as a pirate warrior stricken with amnesia, who has to navigate a mysterious past while also harvesting skills from her fallen foes in a pretty gorgeous world. And it's hard not to draw comparisons to games like Black Myth Wukong or Sekiro given the combat style, but hey, the idea of battling otherworldly horrors with a steep difficulty curve never really gets old for me, so I'm pretty optimistic about this one. The visuals look great, the animations are looking fast and fluid, and if the performance holds up, I might just end up grabbing this one out of the gate instead of Elden Ring Night Rain, which sadly I still haven't taken the leap on yet, but I'll wait to learn more about it again when it drops on July 24th. Next up, getting literally more grounded, we have Grounded 2, releasing on July 29th for PC, Xbox, and hitting Game Pass on day one. And sadly, I never got into the original Grounded, but seeing the trailer footage here makes me wonder if I should really give this one a look. This is an open-world, single-player, or co-op survival game where you can craft weapons and armor, build up a base, and traverse the larger playground world on a hilariously named buggy. But beyond that, you can also have your insect buddies engage in battles or gather resources. It's a neat premise, and as someone who's old enough to have witnessed the release of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the sheer novelty of this and the fact that it'll be a day one Game Pass release means I'll probably end up giving this one a whirl, just so I can finally find out what all the fuss is about. After all, if the first one was that well received that it warranted a sequel follow-up, there must be something there, and honestly the idea of just running around in a playground with my friends while being bug-sized sounds like a good time. And next up, while we're on the subject of more earthy affairs, on that same day we have the slice of Hobbit life simulator, Tales of the Shire, coming to PC, PS5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. And I gotta be honest, while I love the Lord of the Rings movies and frequently rewatch them, my favorite parts of those movies has always been any of the scenes that take place in the Shire. And considering I'm as much a fan of cozy games as I am brutally difficult titles, this is definitely looking appealing to me. Within its idyllic corner of Middle-earth, you'll be spending your time in Bywater, a small town that's not quite an official village of Hobbiton, but you'll do your part in making it flourish by decorating your own hobbit hole, tending to your garden, fishing, foraging, and trading with townsfolk. The only thing that's a little off-putting for me on this one is, even though it does have that storybook aesthetic, and that's a pretty obvious choice, I can't help but think the visuals look a little bit flat somehow. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just YouTube compression throwing me off, but either way, I'm going to reserve judgment for the time being, and hopefully this will be a cozy adventure deserving of the Shire moniker. But next up, let's get back to some of that brutal difficulty, because I'm fairly certain this one's going to be tough, and that would be Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, coming to PlayStation, PC, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, also on July 29th. From the same team that brought us Blasphemous, this represents an untold chapter of the Ninja Gaiden saga. To stand against a new threat, you'll be playing as Kenji Mosu, a young ninja from the Hayabusa village who is trained by Ryu. After an unlikely alliance develops with a member of the Black Spider Clan, you'll be facing off against the Demon Lord and unraveling an interconnected story, all while engaging in classic ninja shenanigans along the way. And honestly, I'd be sold enough on a game like this from the raw action gameplay, but throw in that crunchy pixelated aesthetic, and I'm pretty much sold as someone who grew up on games like this. Granted, it's almost certainly going to be a stiff challenge, but a challenge that I'm sure will be satisfying if you're at all an action junkie for this type of high-octane combat and platforming. So here's hoping it does well and represents a return to form for Ninja Gaiden's 2D outings. And finally, one more retro throwback that, as of this recording, only has a release date of July, so here's hoping it doesn't shift because I sure like what I'm seeing here, and that would be Code Violet for PS5. Code Violet is a third-person action horror game that's definitely taking some cues from Dino Crisis, within which you'll play as Violet Sinclair, a time traveler exploring the Aeon bioengineering complex, and in short order have to contend with a range of dino threats to survive and, ideally, escape. It looks to have a slightly greater emphasis on action than horror, but nonetheless I'm still pumped to check this one out. Early footage looks a little bit rough so far, with some frame rate dips that I could see in the trailer, but honestly, even despite that, I'm still probably going to be down for this, and this smacks of hidden gem in progress. And I'm guessing it won't make a huge sales splash out of the gate or anything, but I have no problem with a third-person femme fatale dinosaur shooter, and the gameplay showed one particular sequence where you're frantically shuttering doors while a T-Rex tries to attack you, and it's looking like a schlocky good time that I am definitely here for. But again, we still don't have a firm release date listed, so hopefully we'll learn more soon, and it actually does come out in July instead of getting pushed to later, but honestly, if they're going to polish up the experience even more, I won't mind the delay too much. I'm just anxious to go ahead and jump back into some dino horror. Alright, and that's going to be it for this one. Out of all the games listed here, I have to say I'm probably still most excited for Donkey Kong Bananza, especially in light of all of those new details we got from the Direct last week. Although Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 might be a close second for me because I am somebody who grew up in that era and I am very excited at the idea of seeing all of those levels reimagined, but yeah, what about you? Are there any particular games that are on your radar for July that I missed here? If so, let me know in the comments below because I love hearing about your feedback, and honestly I learn way more about games through your comments than you probably do through my videos. Coming up on the channel, I have some very exciting accessory coverage coming for the Switch 2, and after a few weeks of testing the Switch 2, I will finally have a full review of the console itself, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for your time and hanging out here with me on the channel. It really means a lot to me. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.